Now, that was a different sort of campaign from ours. That was a lot of money. We don't have that yet. If anybody here has a spare million and they don't know what to do with it, please give it to us. We would like to mount a campaign to remove Goodwin Liu from the Supreme Court of California. We believe that even this year, you can still vote yes on Prop 49 by voting no on Goodwin Liu, and it's going to send exactly the same message. There's another justice on the ballot with him who voted against us. Her name's Catherine Werdiger. We're tossing her off too, baby in bathwater. And my feeling is if they can't read the Constitution, they shouldn't be on the bench. And this is an absolute infringement, right? I mean, you're laughing, but it's frickin' true.
No, I'm laughing because it hurts, you know, it hurts enough to laugh.
Oh my gosh, well, you know, I can't believe that after what we went through to get this on the ballot, that these guys just come out and smack us on nothing. You know, not only are they saying that, you know, well, Jerry Brown, you know, didn't really sign it, so that's already suspect. And this whole idea of voter instructions, voter advisories, I don't really think that's appropriate in California. Well, except that we've done it in California. It predates the initiative process. We did it in 1892 about the direct election of senators. It led to the 17th Amendment. The legislature uses it rarely. The last time the legislature put a ballot measure on the ballot was in the 30s when they wanted they did two. They wanted to solicit the will of the people towards how highway funds should be spent. What's different? What's changed? Why do we not have that mechanism now? The last time the legislature tried to do it was in 2007 when a measure, a voter instruction passed both chambers of the California legislature calling for the end to the Iraq War and the immediate withdrawal of troops from Iraq. It was vetoed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, not on the grounds that we don't do this in California, but on the grounds that it would have been too divisive and it would have further divided Californians. That would have been on the, right? That would have been on the 2008 February primary ballot, which, as I recall, was pretty much all about the Iraq War. And you know that Washington said to Arnold Schwarzenegger, you guys cannot have this conversation in California. A conversation in California is likely to spread. If you have this conversation in California, everybody's going to have this conversation and there's no way for us to stop it. If you look at our map, which Charles and Mansour taped there, what you will see is there have been actions in 42 of the 50 states of the United States towards a 28th Amendment. Some of them have been legislature resolutions. Some of them, the purple ones, have been municipal resolutions. The blue states are states where resolutions have been introduced into the legislature but have not passed. The green are all those who have passed, which total 16. These two, Montana and Colorado, are the two states that have voted. They've both voted in 2012. Montana is a fascinating case because I spoke about this the last time I was here. Their whole Anaconda Copper thing, they wanted to continue with their 100-year-old prohibition against corporate contributions into political campaigns, and it got appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court returned a summary judgment saying there can be no doubt that Citizens United applies to Montana. One line, they sent them back. So Montana put it on the ballot, and the state gave Mitt Romney a 55 to 45 majority, and they gave this ballot measure a 75% majority of the popular vote. So even if every single person in Montana who voted for Barack Obama and voted for this measure, which is pretty statistically unlikely, right, that every single person who voted for Barack Obama voted for that ballot measure, that still leaves almost 60% of the people who voted for Mitt Romney voted for this. This is not about left and right, right? Everybody agrees about this. They cannot allow us to have this conversation, and that's what they did to us. So one last thing before I stop. How am I on time? Am I just about done?
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I'll tell you, Mansour thinks I have 10 minutes, but it's a long day, so I'll just say this one last thing. One of the main arguments that the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association makes in this lawsuit to throw us off the ballot, is that we did not meet the Secretary's calendar, and that should disqualify us. The Secretary's calendar would stipulate that measures have to be passed and signed, or in our case not signed, by the governor by the 26th of June in order to qualify for the ballot. And that we didn't meet that calendar. We didn't get out of the assembly until the 3rd of July, and the governor didn't not sign us until around the 17th. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there was a water bond measure passed last week that's going on the ballot, that's going to have a supplemental voter instruction guide. So I'm just hoping they're not bringing that up in court. But that's part of what threw us on the ballot. It's a completely specious argument. This idea of a poll, I heard from one legislator after Goodwin Liu's opinion was made public, who said to me, Goodwin Liu completely missed the point. We're not after a poll. We need a tool. We need a tool to prod the Congress, because Citizens United is making it impossible for us to legislate, right? And look what just happened on SB 52. Look what just happened on Holly Mitchell. The day we were getting our Senate floor vote, Holly Mitchell, who may represent some of you if you live in Culver City, stood up, just magnificent, speaking about her anti-fracking bill. I'm getting chills now thinking about what she said on that day and how spectacular it was. I will tell you this, we have a lot of really good and committed legislators in the California legislature. I was very impressed and surprised, and we had a lot of friends there. And what we're looking to do, in addition to putting Goodwin Liu and Catherine Werdiger off the bench, right? They kicked us off the ballot, let's kick them off the bench. Right, we need your help in this too if we're to build a grassroots campaign to do this, to give folks something to vote for. I mean, I know how deflated I was. Ted Lieu's my representative, so I at least have something to go and say, yes, please send Ted Lieu to Congress. I, completely know how fabulous he is and how much integrity he's got and how hard he fought for this and will continue to fight for this. But what are the rest of us supposed to do? And, that's part of the point, right? Drive down turnout. That unbelievable thing that they also said, Democratic ploy, drive out turnout. No, I'm sorry. This was a couple of activists who went up to Sacramento every week for several months to get this done. This was not big Democrats. This was little ladies from Southern California is what this was. And we're not giving up. So with that, I'll close. Thank you so much. I will pass this around. If you guys haven't signed, please sign. If you don't have our cards, which I know you have, the question.
Yes.
Yeah, you said we have 4 days for this petition.
And it's not just 4 days for the petition. I mean, this petition, they have 4 days to reverse themselves in order for us to be on the ballot. That would be August 28th. But the petition signatures we will gather between now and the 10th of November. The faxes that are going into the California Supreme Court and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. That will be happening from now till November 10th. We did actions last Wednesday. Let the people speak. We will not be silenced were the actions at the Los Angeles office of the California Supreme Court and the Sacramento office, and of course at the San Francisco office. About 150 activists participated in the 3 cities, which on very short notice on a Wednesday afternoon at noon isn't bad. There were 7 arrests. We plan to do this continually and hope to garner media, but you guys are really what we've got as far as folks speaking about this. And the outrage that should be in every Californian's heart that we are being denied our right to speak. We are being denied our First Amendment right to petition our government, and they are not allowed by the Constitution to make any law that abridges the people's rights. And they're going to try and do that on the 10th of November. So we have to be louder.
It seems to me the whole point of big money in politics fundamentally is to buy airtime on the media. could you talk about the fairness doctrine? Why did we get the fairness doctrine in the first place? Why did it get wiped out under Ronald Reagan? And is there any talk within this movement of money out of politics of basically fighting fire with fire by simply reinstituting and bringing back the fairness doctrine, which would be the equal time and would wipe out the advantage the big money has on buying media?
I know it was in place when I was a kid. In the 60s, my dad was actually in advertising, so I know it was there then. And it was assumed. You know, this was, the media had a responsibility to inform the citizens, to give both sides, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I say it's part of the Powell Doctrine because how are they going to take over media if that remained? How are they going to begin to use all of the tools of manipulation, you know, that Naomi Klein writes so brilliantly in her book about the shock doctrine, everything that Dr. Cameron was finding out in Canada about how to, you know, get to the old brain, right? How to stoke the fear, how to divide folks, right? That's Rupert Murdoch's stock in trade. I would say that it was less the fairness doctrine than relaxing media ownership rules. And you know what Bill Clinton relaxed. I mean, Bill Clinton was still implementing the Powell Doctrine as well. When he initially relaxed the rules to allow Rupert Murdoch to buy American media, that should not have been allowed. And you know, whatever nationality Rupert Murdoch claims he is, and I guess he's got American citizenship now, he's certainly not. He's certainly, you know, he waves that flag all the time, but he certainly doesn't feel it. And his number 2 investor is a Saudi prince. So where are we with Fox News? And they're driving the discussion. They are always driving the discussion. And the rest of media, you know, Cenk Uygur gave a brilliant speech at our second MOVI conference. I had asked him to address this idea that the media aren't helping. And he was just all out, all over this about, you know, you think MSNBC is left? Forget it. They're not. They're establishment. You know what happened to Phil Donahue when he was speaking out against the war. Cenk went on to tell the story of Ashley Bamfield, who's just now finally shown up on CNN, but Phil Griffin wouldn't let her out of her contract when she started speaking about these things. And Cenk said her office was literally moved into a closet, right? So, and Rupert Murdoch continues to gobble up media. He continues, you know, in England, they declared him an unfit person to be the head of a corporation, right? And look what we do, right? The media are the problem, and we have to end around them. There's no way they're going to talk about this issue. I quote Les Moonves all the time, the chairman of CBS, last summer, who said, super PACs may be bad for America, but they're very good for CBS. You know, what's that? Where's the patriotism? Where's the informed populace? Where, you know, I mean, it is a dire situation, the media. And, you know, when we get our amendment, that's the next thing I'm going to do is break up media. Carol, did you have a question?
Yes, my question from earlier is, if we have signed this, should we also then go online? Is this a petition or is this just a sign up to help?
This is a petition, but as we're not signature gathering, there's nothing that says you can't sign the paper petition and sign the online petition. So we've got an online petition, and we also hope you will go online and use our breathtaking fax apparatus. That was our secret weapon in the legislature. We have this fellow, the Pen. He was here the last time at your meeting. Do you know Penn?
Yes.
The Pen? So the Pen set up a fax apparatus whereby we could simultaneously fax in, for example, all 17 members of the Appropriations Committee in the Assembly at the same time. One click, you fax them all. We sent between 176,000 and 200,000 faxes into the legislature. We want that number to be bigger going into the Supreme Court. And if you get on there and sign it and you send it out to your lists, please do. We have to bury them in our voices in order for our voices to be heard. So we need your help to do it.
That sounds like a good.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
no,
Victoria.
We have one more question, excuse me.
I'm not clear on the difference between SB 52 and Proposition 49.
SB 52 is actual law. It's called the Disclose Act. It will change the Constitution of California, so it requires a 2/3 vote in both chambers, and it did pass out of the Senate. So the Senate is a bit more progressive than the Assembly, but they're all, subject to, when Rod Wright, who is no longer in the Senate, was the lone Democrat to vote against the Disclose Act in the Senate. He was asked, how could you vote against the Disclose Act? And he said, independent expenditures fund my campaigns. So at least he was honest. But it's making real law, right? What we're doing is starting a nationwide conversation, giving the California legislature a tool that they need to pressure the Congress. We also would have had the capacity with this on the ballot to go to every single person running for office in the state of California and say, do you support Prop 49? Are you going to work for a constitutional amendment? And we had a candidate covenant. And it also will give our legislature political cover when we go back to them in January to try and make real law, which we're going to do, unless we get back on the ballot for 2016, and then we've got 2 years to mount this campaign. But if they say this is illegal, you can't go on the ballot, and you can never have a voter instruction again, we go back in January to make actual law, to begin to tweak the corporate charters, to begin to look into the Political Reform Act of 1974, to begin to do what California always does, which is lead these kinds of progressive conversations nationwide.
All right, you covered it
Okay, cool.
at the end there.
Anybody doesn't have a card to get to the Prop 49 website where you'll find our spectacular fax machine? Do you have one? From Chris, you've got one? I saw you hold it up.
What is the site?
Oh, the site. Thanks, Mansoor. Please, everyone, go to yesonca49.com. CA for California. And thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you.